Well, within the last week, there have been 2 major drills conducted by the military in U.S. cities with the cooperation and participation of the police. Now, this is something we should all be concerned about. The Founding Fathers are somebody that we look up to because they're the only revolutionary leaders that did not become tyrants themselves. They understood human nature and the depravity of human nature. And they not only defeated that in others, they resisted it in themselves, and they came up with safeguards and warnings for us as to how this would happen. And one of the things that they warned us about was a standing military as well as a central bank. A standing military will eventually, and has throughout history, become a tool of oppression. It has happened in our country in the past, where the military has been used to oppress people, and that's why we have the Posse Comitatus Act. That was to counteract American suppression in the U.S. by the American military. Well, let's take a look at some of these recent drills. On January the 28th in Houston, we have a clip. Let's show that clip.
Helicopters and the sound of gunfire created a lot of concern this afternoon in one Houston neighborhood. This happened in southeast Houston around the old Carnegie Vanguard High School.
When you see this, you think the worst.
She told me don't come home because it sounded like we're in a war zone. Guns shooting and helicopters flying around over the house.
And an Army major who was out here wouldn't tell us exactly what kind of training they were doing. HPD was aware of what was going on, but the fire department apparently wasn't.
Well, this is the military assault on a school. This was done with helicopters, with guns firing, with troops on the ground. The residents thought a war was breaking out. They didn't know what to think. They were warning family members not to come by. Now, the fire department didn't know about that. Ambulances were called and dispatched. The police knew about it, but neither the police nor the military warned any of the people, any of the citizens there in Houston. Now, that's not only something that is not competent, but it is also just contempt for the citizens. Let's take a look at this next clip here. This is Miami 4 days earlier, January the 24th, 2013.
Still, if you've seen one of these drills, it really is like a scene out of one of those action movies, choppers stalking the sky of downtown Miami. Again, let me tell you what all of this is that we know of. It's a joint military training exercise involving local police, also military, as someone shot some video of some of these choppers, military-style choppers, flying over 395 in downtown.
Machine gun firing, hit the deck.
Well, you heard the guy, he says, hey, it's like a movie. I guess it's supposed to be fun. A lot of people didn't think it was fun. A lot of people were very frightened by that because, again, they don't bother to tell people. But, again, what's concerning about that is notice that he says that they're training with the police. It's something that we see happening over and over again. Here's another one in Minneapolis, August 28th, 2012.
If you see military helicopters flying low over Minneapolis, do not be alarmed. They are training in an urban environment. The U.S. Special Operations Command will be conducting these exercises until the beginning of September.
Yep, that's the view outside my window.
That's right. Did you hear her say, don't be alarmed. Everything is perfectly fine. It's just the American military preparing to attack U.S. cities. Of course, nothing the government ever does is bizarre or to be questioned, just like we are never to question the TSA. And if we do, we're the ones who are bizarre. Here's another one. St. Louis, July 3rd, 2012.
People who live and work in this neighborhood say they think the training here is a good idea.
I think it's the same way when you go out to other countries, when you go out of town. They don't have police officers, they have troops. And I think it kind of scares a lot of people.
Like cut down on crime?
Crime, yeah, cut down on a whole lot of crime. Because they don't know if they're military or they're police.
I think it's fantastic because it might slow down some of the crime rate. You know, the crime rate might go down. You know, that's what I think of.
Well, now here, notice that the media takes a little bit different tact. It's not, don't worry, or it's fun, it's like a movie. Here they have 2 people that say, well, we think it'd be great because it'd be a great way to scare people and get crime down. Well, no, actually the standing military is a crime. And using the Army for police functions is a crime. It doesn't stop crime, it makes the government create the crime. No one who has a different view was presented in this article. And here's another one, Chicago, April 17, 2012.
A pretty scary scene along the Chicago River turns out to be a military training exercise.
Well, notice some of the things that they said. Although you're seeing the same things here as you did in other cities, people are talking about how reckless the behavior was. One of the videos that someone shot, he says, look at this, it's night, and these guys are zigzagging and weaving through skyscrapers at a very low altitude with no lights. Something of reckless endangerment, but the thing that we're really concerned about, again, is the police and the military joining together. Take a look at this clip from Los Angeles in January the 26th, 2012.
Special military operation forces in conjunction with the LAPD conducting some military maneuvers that had many people wondering what is going on.
When a Black Hawk helicopter and 4 OH-6s, or Little Birds, flew over the city. Duran says the military picks environments based on what they might be facing in the near future.
If it's a mountainous terrain, then they go to mountains. If it's a desert terrain, they use the desert.
Also, what we saw here tonight in downtown Los Angeles has been seen in Miami and in Boston.
Now, do you notice what he said? He said if it's a mountainous terrain, they go to the mountains. If it's desert, they go to the desert. If it's the coast, they go to the coast. Why are they going to American cities? Do you have cities like that in Afghanistan or Iraq? Are they planning to invade Iran? But if they're planning to invade Iran, why are they coordinating with American police? Do they think that the Iranian police are going to coordinate with them on an attack and an invasion of Iran? No. But if the U.S. military attacks American cities, they will get the cooperation of the police, or at least some of them. Now, all these things have happened within the last year. All of these reports we just showed you in all these cities, major military drills involving the police and the military working together to take over American cities, training, as the man just pointed out, for the scenario that they're expecting to execute. But this has been going on for a long time. It's just accelerating. Let's take a look at this clip where we sent a team to Chicago. They saw there a National Guard training with local police and the Polish military. Now, in just a few seconds, you're going to see some Boy Scouts in rubber jumpsuits. That's right, they're pulling the Boy Scouts in on this.
Get on the ground on your knees! Everybody on the ground, on the ground! Put your hands on your face! On the ground, on the ground!
The Boy Scouts are being trained to be victims.
Do not move! Cover your face with your hands! Cover your face with your hands!
And in just a few minutes, the Polish military is going to come in full combat gear. That's right.
Big
Foreign troops will come in.
Probably, 60 Boy Scouts down there with their scoutmasters and whoever else wanted to come along. Notice they have them lying face down in the anthrax powder.
It's a very real-life situation.
Notice that they're laying
lie
face
down
down
in the anthrax powder. We're going to move you.
Hostages, you are expendable. Please put your face directly in the powder.
All right. Yeah, all of a sudden the Polish BOA is participating in this exercise, which they didn't mention at all before that. It was just they're here to observe, Hey, it's BOA. Bureau of Operational Anti-Terrorism is what I think it stands for. So I don't know, this was a hard one to swallow, watching these guys train.
Now in Police State 4, the rise of FEMA that we produced in 2010, we have guardsmen training to find weapons caches in Arcadia, Iowa. And we have an interview with a lieutenant colonel with the National Guard there.
Back now, it says in this article, going door to door asking if they can search homes looking for weapons. And they practice raiding the local gun shop. And this is for domestic operations. Lieutenant Colonel, I really appreciate you coming on such short notice, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. I saw this article out of the Daily Times Herald in Carroll, Iowa. Have you seen that?
I sure have.
And it's telling us about an urban warfare drill to be held in several towns. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. It's actually a planned training event to provide our soldiers with greater proficiency at what we call cordon and search, which is a mission that, just for a little background, we've deployed nearly 13,000 members of the Iowa National Guard in the global war on terror. And the vast majority of those have been in Iraq and Afghanistan. And one of the missions that they perform in Iraq and Afghanistan on multiple occasions is cordon and search, where basically you are trying to get to an area cordon it off to make sure everything's safe, and then actually search for caches of weapons or other kinds of contraband which could harm American forces and other
like Fallujah, what we saw in Fallujah.
Correct. Exactly. So because of where we're located in Iowa, there are no active duty bases in Iowa, so we kind of have to create our own urban training environments. So the plan on this particular training event was to actually use a small town of about 450 people. The town has actually kind of adopted the unit, which is called Company A, 1st Battalion, 168th Infantry, and they were more than willing to participate in the exercise.
Well, we showed you Boy Scouts being trained to be victims. They're also training them to be aggressors. In a New York Times article in 2009, it says Scouts to train to fight terrorists and more. Oh, what would that more be? And in this article, it says their person who is helping them is A.J. Lowenthal, a sheriff's deputy. He says this is about being a true-blooded American guy and girl. Now, they also had them not only be aggressive with SWAT team raids, they also conducted a marijuana raid. And at one point, the guy says, put him on his face and put a knee in his back. I guarantee he'll shut up. Well, that's the kind of training they're giving the Boy Scouts, not helping little ladies cross the street anymore. Just put them on their face and put a knee in their back to make them shut up. Well, we got another clip here from Police State 2000. Now, in this one, Alex interviews a police chief from San Antonio. He had to kick out Delta Force for trying to bribe city officials in order to conduct training exercises there.
As far as we know, this is the first time that local law enforcement, local police leadership has actively stood up against Bill Clinton's new military.
What were your major reservations in asking the mayor to tell them that y'all didn't want them to train here and to cease training here?
Well, a lot of things happened. First of all, the organization came into the city and never really approached the city as a whole. We've gotten together with the mayor and said we need to speak to all these different departments and request some assistance. Various groups and individuals came into the city and approached different people at different levels. The police department was contacted, the city manager's office was contacted about using city facilities, various business owners were contacted through the economic development department, the fire department was contacted by different individuals, and so there was never any coordinated approach to the city of San Antonio. When we found out of it, we had some reservations, but we were willing at least to listen. But then we started finding out that discussions were happening at other different levels, and there was no communication, no coordination between that. Well, then, when we said no, then some elected officials were contacted to bring pressure to bear. And then offers were made to give money, cash money, to elected officials' charities if they could get us to change our minds. I mean, you know, as one of my deputy chiefs said, in some circles that's called bribery.
Well, we have a long history of the military and the police working together in this country, training for martial law. And Alex has pointed that out for a long time in his documentaries and on the air. What's alarming about this, however, is the increasing rate at which this is happening. As I said, we just had in the last week, we had 2 major cities where there were 2 major exercises. The one that happened just a couple of days ago in Houston, they were firing guns and attacking schools. Citizens are never notified. What is happening is we're seeing the militarization of the police, and we're seeing the military used as police. That's a very frightening perspective. We've seen that before in our country's history. We've seen it in other countries. And in spite of what the people in St. Louis said that they put on the media, that is not something that reduces crime. What it does is it makes criminals out of both the military and the police. So we hope that there'll be more people like that San Antonio police chief who have the integrity and the wisdom to stand against this. Well, that's it for tonight's news. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.